What's up, y'all? This is Gene from Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, from Birds Deep Podcast, Cheap Seats Podcast, Sideline to Sideline Podcast. Got a lot going on this morning, but I need to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to give it a minute. I'm going to tag everybody that needs to be tagged, and hopefully we can get some action in the chat, some people that can ask some questions, some comments, but I got a lot to get into. So I'm going to try to keep this to 30 minutes. It might be tough because there is a lot to talk about. Let me just tag all these followers, make sure it's shared out, and then we'll get rolling. If you're in the chat, just say hi. I want to hear from you. All right. So last night's Eagles game was nothing new. It wasn't anything that was different than what we've seen over the last month and a half since the San Francisco 49ers game. And I think the San Francisco 49ers punked the Philadelphia Eagles to the point where they just lost their will and they exposed us. Kyle Shanahan exposed us defensively, particularly over the middle of the field. Something that Dallas picked up on and used and looked at the blueprint and they used, and something that happened throughout the rest of the NFL season. Where I have an issue when I'm looking at this Philadelphia Eagles team is coaches need to be able to adjust. When you watch that football game last night, a lot of people talk about personnel. Like, oh, Bradbury's trash. Yeah, Bradbury played terrible. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are overhyped. Yeah, listen. They've played more snaps this year than they've ever played in their life. But yes, they might be overhyped. They might not be great picks. I don't know. What I find issues with is the overall scheme on both sides of the football. So where do y'all want to start? Y'all want to start offense or defense? My biggest issue came on the offensive side of football because Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni looked absolutely lost. Normally, I would start defensively. I'm not a fan of this defense. I hate the defense coordinator. Matt Patricia and Sean Desai, both of them need to be sent out immediately. I'm telling you right now, if you keep Sirianni and you do not replace both coordinators, you're going to have a problem in the city of Philadelphia. I don't want to keep Sirianni, but I could listen to an argument where you say Sirianni stays, but we hire Frank Reich and we hire Wink Martindale to be our coordinators. I'd be okay with that. Wouldn't be happy, but I'd be okay with it. With all the coaching out there right now, I need something better. And we'll address Nick Sirianni, but I want to address the offense first. So what did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do? Oh, they did the same thing that the New York Giants did. They did the same thing that Dallas Cowboys did. So, and I'm not saying everybody does this the same way. San Francisco 49ers defense is schemed up completely different. They have a front four that can get after you without blitzing. It's different, right? But New York and Tampa Bay use the exact same logic when they went against the Eagles last night. They blitzed from the edges and they contained Jalen Hurts. And the Eagles were, I don't know if Nick Sirianni or Brian Johnson know what a blitz beater is. You're watching that football game last night. Guys, anybody in the chat, I would love you guys to talk and understand, because I want to educate. That's kind of what this conversation is going to be about. What is a blitz beater? What are things that beat the blitz? Well, it's not a button hook. It's not a comeback route. It's not a stop. You can't run double moves. They're in the backfield before Jalen Hurts has the opportunity to see a route progress. Blitz beaters are slants, are running back screens, not bubble screens to the outside. Blitz beaters are where you have your receivers who have speed. Olamide Zaccheaus, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, they have speed. You have them running away from defenders. Diggs is another one. You cannot run a comeback route or a stop route or a flag route versus the blitz. It doesn't work. Go watch the tape from last night's game. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing how the middle of the field is wide open. And I just don't understand how the Bucs lined up with 6 people on the defensive line. The Eagles are lined up in 5 wide set. Guys, I'm not trying to be smart here, but 6 is more than 5, so they're going to have a free rusher. One rusher is going to be untouched, coming off the edge or in the A-gap. You have to bring Dallas Goedert in. You have to bring your running back in to be able to block. The Philadelphia Eagles ran no blitz beaters last night. And if you watch a ton of tape of what happened last night, which I've seen the game twice already, you will see fully every time Jalen Hurts throws the ball, most of his receivers are en route. Their heads aren't even turned. Let's talk about the 4th and 5. That's got a lot of conversation piece. They basically ran a deep post to Devontae Smith on a cover 0 blitz that turned into cover 1. It looked like cover 0. They designed it like it was cover 0. And then they essentially ran a cover 1. They used Antoine Winfield Jr. as the over-the-top safety, and they dropped one of their blitzers in the coverage on Devontae Smith. So they ran a cover 1 and still blitzed, but it was basically a 50-50 jump ball to an undersized receiver versus an all-pro safety in the back of the end zone on 4th and 5. I'm not an NFL coach. I'm not. But I know that wouldn't work. That's not the right play. So Cottrell posts, you could go bunch. Also should have a running back stay in the backfield to block. Jory said, I don't know why they weren't having their receivers actually run away from defenders instead of all those damn screens. Cottrell says, I would have at least attempted a pick play. Even if they call it, at least it's an attempt. Danny says slants. Tish says 0 hot routes on any play. My man Mo says the middle's wide open. Guys, that Eagles offense last night was as if I was playing a kid in Madden that had no idea how to pick up the blitz, and I ran it every single play. And these are NFL coaches. And you guys wonder why I said they need to fire the coach and the coordinators immediately. Guys, I'm not overreacting when I say this. Nick Sirianni was terrible last night. Brian Johnson was terrible last night. You cannot have all that. And let's just say, oh, they're missing their best receiver. I love that excuse. I love that excuse. They were missing A.J. Brown, and that's really what they're missing. No, it's not. Line up their offense versus Tampa Bay's defense, and you tell me, guys, they're teams that put up multiple touchdowns, points on Tampa Bay's defense. There are quarterbacks that aren't as skilled and as good at Jalen Hurts that did this. The problem is Jalen's not picking up the blitz. Now, what do you accredit that to? I don't know. If a 4th-year quarterback that you paid $50 million isn't picking up the blitz, I would think that that would be a coaching conversation. I would think that that would be, hey, listen, when you see this look, you need to do this. Some rookie head coaches, rookie quarterbacks, you have 2 options. If they show this, you throw here. If they show this, you throw there. And I'm not saying that the Eagles should move on from Jalen Hurts at all. I'm not at all. But probably should have went to Marcus Mariota last night. Sorry. If your quarterback can't see the edge rusher that's coming untouched or unblocked, I got to get him out of the game. The Philadelphia Eagles also, and I thank you, the Maestro Burster, my man. He said, was there a pregame film session at all? I don't know. I don't know how you can say there was. That was embarrassing. Danny Dempsey, and Cottrell could have scripted up a better offense last night than the Philadelphia Eagles did. you're not going to get much out of Quez Watkins if you don't use him the right way. You're not going to get anything out of Olamide Zaccheaus if you don't use him the right way. Dallas Goedert was obviously frustrated on the sideline because on the fourth down play that they threw the ball to Devontae Smith, you got to go back and watch it. Dallas Goedert's wide open across the middle. 7 yards. He ran an in route. It's a very easy route to throw. It's a very easy route to see. He's a big body, and he has his defender boxed out with 1.5 yards of separation. But Jalen wanted to throw a jump ball to a guy that's 175 pounds versus an all-pro safety. I don't want to blame this all on the coaching staff, but Jalen Hurts has proven with a capable offensive coordinator and Shane Steichen that it's not a one-year wonder thing, guys. This is why coaching is so important. I'm so sick of seeing, well, it was a one-year wonder. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a one-year wonder. It was a good coordinator and a good scheme that was built for our quarterback. Guys, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go back and watch the San Francisco 49ers game, NFC Championship game last year. And I want you to understand the genius that is Shane Steichen, because so many people miss this, and it's embarrassing how bad they missed it. He found the flaw in San Fran's defense at the end of the second quarter after Nick Bosa almost sacked Jalen Hurts late in the second quarter. If you guys don't remember it, it was almost a safety. The game was still close. And he almost sacked Nick Bosa almost sacked Jalen Hurts for a safety. The Philadelphia Eagles ran bunch on the right side with the running back to the right of the quarterback and ran opposite side of the field to basically gain numbers. They used the pull route with Jason Kelce. They used their 2 offensive linemen and their tight end all on the left side, and they ran the play over and over and over again. So what does a good coordinator do? They adjust. San Francisco 49ers adjusted. DeMeco Ryans was their coordinator. They moved Hufanga to the opposite side, to basically the weak side where the Eagles were running the football. They made a stop or 2 on a play. How did Philadelphia counter? They added to their numbers. They started running Jalen Hurts and using the running back as an extra blocker last year, which was Miles Sanders, who could block. Kenneth Gainwell, who's okay blocker. DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny cannot block their way out of a wet paper bag. They couldn't block me. So they added numbers to the opposite side. It's a numbers game in football. Leverage. Your big guys need to push around their big guys to create holes for your fast guys. Really simple scheme, guys. Not hard to understand. Jake Crawley said, I argued last year, Super Bowl, that Hurts was a top 3 quarterback, maybe second best. This season was on coaching and play call. Chris says, they played offense like they found out Brown wasn't playing 5 minutes before kickoff. There was no wrinkles for their other receivers. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Cottrell said Goddard ran the wrong route. I don't think he was, and he might tell you that into the media, but if you watch the play, he ran an in route and he was wide open. You have to look. Whatever. Kyle Edwards said, so you said that Sirianni stays, fire both coordinators, then sign Reich and Martindale. If you fire Sirianni, who do you want to coach the Eagles next season? Well, that's a great question. I will get to that. That will be basically the swan song of this rant. But I have another area of the field that I have to address. That's the defense. The Eagles' offense was terrible, and they were worse than the defense last night. However, that game should have been worse than 32-9. You guys forget that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers dropped 6 balls in the first half, 2 of them being touchdowns. Dropped 6 balls. That defense looked like they didn't want to tackle. That defense looked like they quit. That defense looked like they were playing individual style defense. There was no angles, and they were not playing with aggression. I will give credit where credit is due. Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham looked like they understood the assignment. They showed up for a playoff game, fought like hell, and played hard. As much as people give them crap for losing a step, and yes, both of those players have lost a step. They have. But what I need to see is I need to see it right here. I need to see heart. James Bradberry needed to be removed from that football field immediately. He was terrible. I can't, in any of my right mind, understand how you left James Bradberry on the field when you could have been playing Kelee Ringo. He was getting burnt all night, and even that last. All right, so there's a 3rd and 3 at the 45-yard line on the opening drive. The Tampa Bay basically bails us out. They run like a little bit of a bubble screen. The Eagles have James Bradberry and Kevin Byard to tackle one guy. He bounces off of Bradberry. Avonte Maddox cuts out Kevin Byard, and Rachaad White gets the first down, which eventually led to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers field goal. I don't know how to teach you tackling in the NFL when you're an overpaid cornerback. You have to want to tackle. Tackling is an effort thing. Yeah, of course. In the NFL level, it's also a form thing, but it's an effort thing. Guys, these guys got to the NFL, the National Football Association. Don't tell me they don't know form. I got Danny Dempsey in the chat will tell you what form is. I got football players that played in Pop Warner, Pee Wee, high school, JUCO, Division II that will tell you what form is. Last night wasn't about form. It was about effort and playing together. They did not swarm to the ball. What they did was they played individual defense. Their angles were terrible. If you want a good follow on Twitter that will break down what the Eagles did defensively last night, please go follow Seth Joyner, ex-Philadelphia Eagle. I would hire him as a defensive coordinator tomorrow. Tomorrow. I can't sit back and watch Nicholas Morrow, Zach Cunningham. They're the 2 worst linebackers in the league. It's embarrassing how bad of football that they play over in the middle of the field. You want to beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Throw it over the middle. Cade Otton had like a career day yesterday, and he dropped 3 balls. He was open every play. Every play he was open. Guys, Godwin and Evans didn't kill you. Evans had that really good comeback route versus Slay. It was a great route. It was a good throw by Baker Mayfield. You got to give credit where credit's due. That's going to happen in the NFL. Godwin had that little Hail Mary throw that was thrown up, but outside of Godwin and Evans, they didn't do much with those 2. They beat you over the middle of the field. That linebacking crew is embarrassingly bad. They're terrible. If the Philadelphia Eagles do not invest in a linebacker this offseason, I'm going to lose my mind. And it's an organizational problem in Philadelphia. They don't believe in linebackers. They want to rush the passer, and they want to defend the pass. So they want to get edge rushers and defensive linemen, and they want to have cornerbacks, covers, safeties. That's where they fundamentally believe the defense should be built on. They don't put any value in the linebacker position. Well, I'll take a step back, and it's a copycat league in the NFL, right? Can anybody, I just don't know. I don't remember. Who are the 1 seeds in the NFC and the AFC? Just wondering. Anybody want to help? In the chat, I know I'm being satirical right now, but who are the 1 seeds in the AFC and the NFC? Who are the 1 seeds? Oh, it's Baltimore and San Francisco. Baltimore has Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. One of them's a first-team All-Pro. One of them's a second-team All-Pro. Yeah. You know what? Might be an aberration. Might just be Baltimore. San Francisco has Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. First-team All-Pro. Should have been a second-team All-Pro in Greenlaw. Jory said they ran into each other twice. They ran into each other more than twice, just FYI. Twice is where it was very obvious and they replayed it. But like even the beginning of the game when Avonte Maddox ran into Eli Ricks on that huge crossing route on 3rd and 11. Evans kept dropping the ball, which really saved this from being worse. I agree. Constantly leaving the middle wide open. Jake says Baltimore's defense loves some linebackers. Do you cut Bradbury or Slay? Just one or neither? Guys, they signed contracts this offseason, and you can cut them. You're going to eat a lot of that salary, just like you did with Carson Wentz. It's a lot of dead cap money. I wouldn't cut Slay. I would let Slay play another season if he's – I don't know what his injury status is after last night, but hopefully it's not too bad. Bradbury can't see the field next year. He can't. And it's not just can Bradbury get better? Like I'm sure Bradbury can transition into safety and be a better overall player at the safety position. It's not about the skill part with Bradbury. It's about the will. Guys, I'm a sales leader in my profession outside of talking sports. We're taught that any reason that someone fails is developed under skill or will. Now, I wouldn't be able to play NFL cornerback because I don't have the skill, right? I'm overweight. I'm fat. I'm not fast. I don't have the skill to play NFL cornerback. I would love to do it. My will would be there. I would lay my body on the line for this Philadelphia Eagles team. It's a will thing. James, that's exactly what I was saying. Bradbury could become a safety if he had the will to be able to tackle. You say he can't tackle. I don't think he can't tackle. I think he doesn't tackle. And what I mean by that is, look at James Bradbury's career. He's tackled before. He just didn't tackle for this team. He made business decisions. And that's a problem to me. I would give him up for a 5th-round draft pick, 6th-round draft pick. And if you don't, I'm serious when I say this. Cottrell asked, if the team is willing to eat the cap, what's the lowest round pick you take? 5th, 6th? I wouldn't put him on the roster, though, Cottrell. So, I think the NFL would know that. I don't think James Bradbury's on the roster. I got news for you. James Bradbury fell off a cliff so much last night, it reminds me of Alshon Jeffrey. When the Eagles parted ways with Alshon Jeffrey, no team was interested. It's like when a running back loses their legs. I got breaking news for you guys. Austin Eckler won't be in the league 2 years from now. Nothing bad about Austin Eckler, but when you see them lose their legs, he might get one contract with one team this offseason. He won't be in the league 2 years from now. When running backs, cornerbacks, and safety, well, maybe not safeties, but when running backs and cornerbacks lose their legs, wide receivers lose their legs, they're worthless in the NFL. Not worthless as human beings, but in the NFL, they're worthless. They can't play anymore. They're done. So it doesn't matter to me that send Hurts somewhere, Rob Shuck. I mean, I know you're a 49ers fan, and I know it's tough for you to rub two brain cells together, and I get that. But what I will say is this. I genuinely believe that Jalen Hurts will be fine and great and elite under the right coordinator. You've seen it last year with Steichen. These quarterbacks that are in the NFL, that are brought into the league, CJ Stroud. If you notice, Bobby Slovak is getting interviews for head coach because offensive coordinators are hard to find. When you find the right one, CJ Stroud is him, right? But how many quarterbacks are really him with the wrong offensive game plan, the wrong offensive scheme? Look at Trevor Lawrence's first year with Urban Meyer. And then look what Doug Peterson. Yeah, sure, he's had a little bit of I guess he's not lived up to the hype of being what he could be. But you look at these NFL quarterbacks that go into situations like Justin Fields. All I heard out of Chicago was he can't throw. Did you not watch Ohio State football? The guy threw 6 touchdown passes versus Clemson, who was a top 10 defense in college football when he did it. He could throw. Schematically, you just don't have the right scheme for him, which is why, Chicago's fired their offensive coordinator and fired their quarterback coach and whatever. I'd rather than just move him on to Atlanta, hire Eric Bieniemy, but we're getting off topic. The Philadelphia Eagles as a whole have to clean house coaching staff. They have to. So where I will end this, I'm not going to end it now. I'm not getting off, but the last topic that I want to talk about would be, and this is really important, who should replace Nick Sirianni? If you're not firing him, if you're firing him, who are you replacing him with? Well, I got a whole list for you. Ben Johnson has done a phenomenal job for the Detroit Lions in revitalizing Jared Goff's career. Jared Goff looked terrible. Bill Belichick exposed him in the Super Bowl. Jared Goff looked terrible. I would take Ben Johnson as an offensive coach, head coach, in a minute to revitalize this offense. You almost have to hire an offensive coach or hire a defensive coach that can hire an offensive coordinator that can scheme and doesn't really want to be a head coach, because all great offensive coordinators are going to get head coaching jobs. That's what happens. It's just the progression that happens. Look at all the coaches that get hired across the league. A lot of them are offensive head coaches. And in a world full of, offensive coordinators, they become head coaches. That's what happened to Philadelphia the last 2 times they went to the Super Bowl. Frank Wright was hired as a head coach of Indianapolis. The Philadelphia Eagles tried to replace him with Press Taylor. That didn't work out because you try to promote from within a new offensive mind. Shane Steichen gets hired by the Colts. Nick Sirianni tries to replace him with Ben Johnson, which don't kid yourself. That's not Ben Johnson's offense. He might be calling the plays. That's Nick Sirianni's offense. Go back and watch the first year when Nick's calling the plays before he hands the play calling over to Shane Steichen. It's the same offense, guys. It's the same offense. His philosophy is flawed. He looked like a Little League coach. I've never in a million years thought to myself that Nick Sirianni looked like Brandon Staley until last night. Todd Bowles was laughing at them. Mike Vrabel. All right, so this is an interesting one, right? Mike Vrabel's a defensive guy, and you know my stance on defensive head coaches. But Mike Vrabel's also a culture guy. His teams play hard no matter where they go. So if you hire Mike Vrabel, your biggest emphasis has to be on your offense coordinator. I no longer worry about the defense. Because Vrabel will make sure that's taken care of. Let him hire his guy, and that defense will play aggressive. Bro, if you look what Mike Vrabel did with that Tennessee Titans defense, and then ask yourself this, right? Do you think the Tennessee Titans have even a slither of the talent the Philadelphia Eagles have on the defensive side of the ball? Question mark. The answer is no. Not even a slither of the talent Philadelphia has. But that Tennessee defense played hard. They played tough. If you give a guy that's not used to working with filet mignon, he's used to working with beefsteak and minute steak, and you give him a filet, you watch what he does with it. It's a world-class chef. I'm okay with Mike Vrabel if, and big if, they hire the right offensive coordinator to run this offense. Bill Belichick. That's another name I've seen in there. And guys, keep putting them in there. I would love to keep discussing with you guys. Bill Belichick. Let's talk about Bill. Bill would fix the Eagles defense immediately. They would have no issues defensively overnight. But you're gonna get Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. And I don't know what he does with the quarterback that you just paid. To me, Bill is too big of a wild card to hire. And the offenses that Bill has ran in New England the last 3 years without Tom Brady have not looked great. I don't know. Newsflash. And could it be Mac Jones? Maybe. Could it be Bailey Zappi and Cam Newton? Maybe. I don't know. But you can't say don't let him pick his OC. Head coaches almost always pick their coaching staff. I just don't want him to pick Josh McDaniels. If Bill Belichick came in here and hired an offensive coordinator that was a schematic genius, or even, I don't know if I doubt him and Frank Wright would see eye to eye, but like hired a guy like Frank to run the offense and said, "It's your show. I'll take the culture and the defense." But like a lot of people miss what a head coach's job is. Let's start here, right? Head coach's job: develop the culture on the team. Tell the offensive coordinator and the defense coordinator the style of play he wants them to play. So, like, I'll give you an example, right? Nick, let's say I'm Nick. Offensively, I want to run the football and I want to have a deep play ability to be able to throw over the top, to stretch the defense, to back the safeties up. Like, that would be my style on offense. I want you to run that, create schemes, create plays for that. That's what I want. And then you move on to the defensive side of the ball. Defensively, I want to play bend but don't break. I don't want to allow X plays. I don't want to allow big plays over the top. I want to be able to get after the quarterback, force turnovers, and play bend but don't break. Or I want to play an aggressive style defense that attacks the quarterback, that creates turnovers, or whatever. That is what the head coach's job is. And then you allow the coordinators to do what they do. Now, if you look at a situation like San Fran, yeah, of course, guys, of course, Kyle Shanahan has his hands all over that offense. He's the offensive genius. That's why hiring an offensive coordinator to be your head coach seems to make the most sense in most scenarios because you don't have to replace them. But if you look at a situation like Baltimore, John Harbaugh's background is special teams. He hires an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. He lets them do their damn job. And he creates the culture in the locker room of what they're going to do. Why is Mike Tomlin not winning Super Bowls? Well, I'll tell you why. He's a defensive head coach that hasn't found an offensive coordinator to replace what they had when they had Ben Roethlisberger. Why has Sean McDermott struggled to get over the top? Because he's a defensive coach that hasn't hired a good offense coordinator until Joe Brady. They had Brian Daboll for that 1 year, and he absolutely knocked out the ballpark. But what happened when they had Brian Daboll for that 1 year? They played one of the most exciting playoff games ever versus Kansas City. Josh Allen was the second best quarterback in all football behind Patrick Mahomes, and they looked incredible. And then what happened? Brian Daboll got hired because that's what happens when you have a defensive head coach with a good offense coordinator. Well, let's look at the Detroit Lions. If Ben Johnson didn't tell Carolina, I'm not going there, I'm going to come back for another year at Detroit and then roll the dice again this year, Ben Johnson would have got hired at Carolina. Frank Wright was not their first option. Ben Johnson's gone, guys. Dan Campbell's a defensive head coach that needs an offensive mind to run his offense. He's created a culture, but that's the problem in the NFL, guys. Offensive-minded coaches get hired everywhere. Mike McDaniels, offensive-minded coach. Andy Reid, offensive-minded coach. Just go through the NFL playoffs. And if you look at a team that has a defensive-minded head coach, ask yourself, do they have an offensive coordinator that's probably going to get hired as a head coach in the next few months? The answer is yes. Lincoln Riley would not be the answer for offense because Lincoln Riley is not going to leave USC. That's the answer. And I don't know what he can do in the pro level. And if you hire Lincoln Riley to be a head coach, let's just say you hire Lincoln Riley to be your head coach, you better hire a defensive coordinator because if you look at USC's defense, oh my God, it's terrible. You can't trust Lincoln to create a culture of attacking the football and defense. Doesn't work. Jim Harbaugh, that's another one. Rob Shuck mentioned Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's available. Jim Harbaugh is a defensive head coach that's going to create a philosophy of running the football and playing strong defense. I would be okay with Jim. But once again, where does the problem come, guys? I've said it multiple times. You got to get a good offense coordinator to run Jim's style of play, which is run the football, control the clock, and then you have to get that offense coordinator to stay. Yeah, get him to stay. It's a problem. It's tough. It's really, guys, they're already talking about giving Todd Monken a head coaching job. He was hired as the Ravens offensive coordinator yesterday. Mike McDonald. They're talking about giving him an NFL head coaching job. The guy's just brought in. Joe Brady will be an NFL head coaching candidate next year. All right, so here's the real question. Who's coming back for the Eagles? As you think they let half the defensive free agents walk. Okay, so here's what I would do if say half the defense, not half the defense. I'm letting one cornerback go. We drafted 2 to replace him. Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks are on the roster. I'm letting one cornerback go. At safety, you got to make some internal decisions of whether Kevin Byard can still play the game or not. He's definitely lost a step. Is Reed Blankenship your starting safety? I don't think so. Sidney Brown tore his ACL, and he won't be ready to start the season next year. That's your replacement. We'll see if Justin Evans is worth a crap. I don't know, but it's not worth investing money in immediately. You have drafted Nolan Smith in the first round. You have an edge rusher. You paid Josh Sweat. You have another edge rusher. You paid Hassan Reddick. You have another edge rusher. I don't need to spend that much there. I got to bring in a defensive tackle to replace Fletch if Fletch isn't coming back next year. You have Jalen Carter. You have Jordan Davis. And you have Milton Williams, who's been on the roster, and he looked good last night. I mean, Jory says we definitely swindle y'all with that one. A 4th rounder for a safety, I don't know if that swindled us, but yeah, I mean, I would think Tennessee won that trade, just like Philadelphia won the A.J. Brown deal. More head coaches. Any other head coaches do you want me to discuss or break down? It's been a fun conversation. James Rose said, what about bringing back Reich and Schwartz as coordinator? I don't think Schwartz is leaving Cleveland. I don't think he's leaving Cleveland, if I'm being honest with you. Reich, I'm with. All right, this is another great one. My man Brad Atkins, Pete Carroll head coach, Byron Leftwich offensive coordinator. I would sign up for that. Pete Carroll's got a lot left in the tank. And if you think that Pete Carroll should have been fired from Seattle, you're out of your mind. What he did with that Seattle Seahawks organization with Geno Smith, they wrote me off. I didn't write back. Making the playoffs last year, comeback player of the year. They don't have a quarterback. Geno's not the guy. Anybody with 2 eyes can know that. I like Leftwich's offensive coordinator. I do. He definitely runs a scheme that is worth talking about. It's different. I wouldn't be opposed to Pete Carroll. I love the way he builds culture. But once again, if you hire Pete Carroll and you hire Byron Leftwich, you're replacing your coach again in 3 years because he's 72. The Philadelphia Eagles lack stability since leaving Andy Reid. They hired Chip Kelly, great first year, decent second year, third year was abysmal, fired. They hired Doug Peterson, good first year, amazing second year, disappointing third year, terrible fourth year, fired. They hired Nick Sirianni, good first year, great second year, awful third year, fired. It's an organizational thing. And here's the last thing I want to talk about, which still brings up coaches. It's an organizational philosophy to hire a guy that they can control. Howie Roseman hired Nick Sirianni because he was a guy he can control. He had his hands in picking the coordinators and then left the reins to him after the coordinators got head coaching jobs. The only reason I think the Eagles might stay with Nick Sirianni, which I don't think they should, might stay with Nick Sirianni is because they have full control over what he's going to do. So this offseason, Howie Roseman can say, I'm going to hit the reset button. I'm going to hire this coordinator and this coordinator, and we're going to keep Nick. But I don't think Nick builds a great culture. There's a lot of things he does that rub people the wrong way inside the organization. Look at all the great head coaches. Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin. Look at the great head coaches. Pete Carroll. They take accountability for loss and give credit for wins. Accountability for losses and they give credit for wins. I don't know how balloons just popped up on the screen. I didn't touch anything. But Nick Sirianni, after the Kansas City Chiefs game, when he was talking smack, I don't hear you now. And when he's nodding his head at the camera, it's like he's part of the players and not the leader. That's not how leaders lead. That would be like this, right? Let's just say you started a cell phone job tomorrow and you walked in and I was your general manager. And we had a conversation about A, B, C, and D. I want you to think about this real quick. And if you walked in, I was just like, yeah, this place runs great because I'm amazing and I'm just great at it. And it's all me. Like these reps, they just listen to what I tell them to do, and that's how they make money. Because of me, I do all this. This is me, guys. Like it's me. That's not accountability for when things go wrong. They place blame. Oh, the weather is bad. Nobody's walking in the store. And they place blame. And they don't take accountability when things are going bad. Nick Sirianni is gloating like this is his team. It's a team effort. Football is the ultimate team sport. I'll stay on for another minute if anybody else has a question, but I need to get this rant out, guys. That Philadelphia Eagles game last night was an absolute embarrassment. I appreciate everybody in the comments. I appreciate everybody on the live. If anybody has a question or two, I'll answer it. If not, I'm going to wrap up. In closing, the Eagles offense was anemic, terrible. Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni should be fired. The Eagles defense was terrible, embarrassing. They didn't want to tackle. They lacked effort. You can't lack effort. Culture lies at the feet of the head coach. Culture lies at the feet of the head coach. Culture lies at the feet of the head coach. Thank you guys for tuning into my rant. Please make sure you listen to Wire to Wire Sports Podcast tomorrow night for more. Birds Deep on Thursday night, our final episode of the season. Sideline to Sideline. Sunday Morning Drive. Cheap Seats Podcast. Sports Empire Network. Wire to Wire Sports Network.